Let's be honest, Marvel has been absolutely struggling since Endgame. A couple good movies here and there, a lot of struggles on the Disney Plus television side. So when a movie like this comes out and people are saying it's the best thing since Endgame, it kind of makes you wonder, like, is that because the movie's good or is that because the bar is so low? I saw the movie, so let's talk about it. I am caught up in the MCU, so I do know the characters going into this film, but I don't know anything about the Thunderbolts as a team in the comics. So, in my eyes, Marvel has a lot of creative freedom here, and I think they used it pretty well. Some people are praising this movie for its like depression for dummies approach to the story and the darker themes, while others think that maybe it's a little too surface level. And I kind of land in the middle, I guess. No, we aren't getting these like super nuanced character arcs here, but this is a comic book movie, and specifically when it comes to the MCU, they're known for taking these characters and building up these stories like throughout the years and throughout the films, and then cashing in on that later, you know what I mean, in an Endgame or in an Infinity War. And so I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I didn't get my cathartic response from the Thunderbolts. I got what I needed. What matters most to me is, was this entertaining? And the answer is yes. Very funny, very action-packed, very heartfelt, and that's something that just has been completely missing from the MCU. These characters were introduced to the MCU at a certain point, and that ball kept moving, but they were kind of like left behind in both like a story sense and almost like a literal sense. And we kind of see how they've like had to kind of find their place in the MCU since then. Seeing characters like John Walker and Red Guardian again after so long definitely felt like, like the high school reunion vibes. So the film opens with Yelena, who is really going through it. Her sister sacrificed herself to save the universe, and she's over here running missions for Valentina, who is pretty objectively an awful person. This is Florence Pugh's third time as Yelena in the MCU. She really has to carry not really just the heart of the film, but the lens of the film. That's not saying that the rest of the team doesn't have anything to do. Though the team did kind of feel one-dimensional at times, it never like felt flat. You know what I mean? Like I was locked in. I actually think the film is split pretty evenly between the core characters. The success from the MCU came from introducing us to characters that we wanted to see more from, and that's what this movie does really well. It brings in these characters and shows them in a new light, and we want to see where they go from here. And that's the kind of energy that Marvel needs to keep moving forward. The action in this movie is very solid, leagues above Brave New World. There's that line in the trailer, it's like, oh, like we all just punch and shoot. But honestly, the film knows how to work with it. It's very tactile in that like Winter Soldier kind of way, but it goes a little further and it has like a little more ridiculous like superhero physics, which I was here for. I thought it worked really well in this movie. That being said, I do feel like we're in the era where legacy characters should be getting a little more shine. I'm talking specifically about Bucky. He's great here, don't get me wrong, but if Yelena's handling the emotional beats, I would have liked for Bucky to have more of the action set pieces, or even just like take more of a leadership role in this film. I just feel like he's earned it. He's a veteran to the series, he's a veteran in the universe. So yeah, that's just my one nitpick. Just kidding, I actually have another nitpick, and it's the where is everyone issue. I'm not the first one to say this, but basically the MCU has gotten so big and there's so many heroes involved that anytime a larger scale event happens, especially when it happens in like New York where everyone's pretty much located, you kind of start to ask like, where are all these other heroes that would be making an appearance in a situation like this? I do feel like this movie has a passable excuse that works for it, but moving forward, we really need a better narrative tool to explain why there's not more heroes popping up in these movies. At the end of the day, this is a movie about a group of people who maybe have given up on themselves, but not each other. And it's a very, friends we made along the way kind of vibe. And it sounds basic, but it works. I had fun and I want to see these characters again. I'm giving this movie a 4 out of 5. As crazy as that sounds, just the entertainment factor really carried it for me. I was smiling the whole time, and I'm excited to see where these characters go. Haven't said that in a while. All right, so quick spoiler warning for anybody that hasn't seen the movie yet. I'm about to talk about Bob and the post-credit scene. So, Bob, Sentry, the Void, he's kind of like the big bad in this movie, but big bad is more just like a misunderstood bad. His power set in this movie is absolutely ridiculous. I know it's like the comics, so I'm not here to complain, but he has super strength, super speed, invulnerability, and freaking Akira telekinesis powers. And I just don't understand how Marvel plans to handle that. I get nervous when they introduce these characters that are like super overpowered. It kind of makes it harder to justify these lower tier superheroes. Obviously, people want more like street level, like Daredevil, Spider-Man vibes in the movies and television. But when it's time for, Doomsday, I just don't know what they're gonna do. Like, couldn't the Void just like vacuum up Doctor Doom into his like most depressive moment and just leave him there forever. And on the flip side of that, if you introduce Doctor Doom and he just walks up and beats the shit out of Sentry, it just doesn't feel genuine. It kind of just feels like we set Sentry up just to be this like power scaling tool. And for the post-credit scene, I actually really liked the way it looked, but I didn't like the way the characters were written. And what I mean by that is that the energy is just a lot different when these characters are leading a film versus when they're part of an ensemble. You know, you saw it kind of in Infinity War with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, they were great, but there was something like off about the way they were portrayed. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking things, but it just felt like seeing the Thunderbolts in the post-credit scene, they felt a lot more like B characters than, you know, the stars that we just watched for the last hour and a half. I don't know. It's kind of nitpicky, I know. I don't know really much outside of that though, so that's all I had to say.